I'm Diane Hall with AARP Missouri, and I'd like to welcome you to our 7th Movement for Life class of 2022. I cannot believe that we only have one more class. This 8-week class is part of AARP Missouri's Moving It Fitness series, and our class is led by Tyler Ferguson. Movement for Life is geared toward increasing mobility to help build your ability to participate in other fitness activities, as well as everyday tasks. And speaking of other fitness activities, you can find many of our previous fitness classes on Missouri's YouTube channel at youtube.com/C, like the letter C, /AARPMO. Now, Movement for Life is a class that's suitable for many levels of fitness. However, you know your own limitations. Please do not go beyond what you know is right for you. And if you have any concerns at all, please check with your doctor before participating in this or any other AARP fitness offering. And AARP Missouri also offers other live classes starting February 17th, aka tomorrow. For those of you that are listening live, we will have a new Zumba Light class. And we have links to past programs like Forever Fit and Yoga with Tyler that you can participate in from those recordings that I mentioned earlier. You can find links to current, past, and upcoming programs at aarp.org/movingit. All of our programming is created with people age 50 plus in mind, but it's good for anyone of any age, anywhere. And AARP hopes that our fitness classes, like Movement for Life, will be great options for anyone who may not be able to, who may be a little hesitant to attend a traditional fitness class. Like if you're a caregiver, or maybe you have a health concern, or maybe you just like the convenience of working out at home. In addition to our online fitness classes, AARP also has resources for caregivers, up-to-date COVID-19 information, and technology information on our website at aarp.org/nearyou. Now, let's get started with Movement for Life. Our instructor is Tyler Ferguson. Tyler, let's move.
Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Florida. I hope you're feeling nice and warm, maybe warm enough to take your shoes and socks off and participate in class barefoot if that suits you. Make a little adjustment to my screen here. My apologies. There we go. Diane, for whatever reason, I can't see my box in the large thing. I just see you. But maybe everybody else is okay. You can come off mic and tell me if we're okay. I just can't see me. Otherwise, barefoot, if that's convenient, come to a wide stand or a shoulder width distance stance. Lift and separate your toes. Place them down on the mat. And take your eye gaze maybe down to the floor in front of you, or close your eyes and take a moment to feel your feet connecting with the earth. Let your awareness move more inward, paying less attention to the outside world and going more within, feeling the breath moving in and feeling the breath exit out. Bring your awareness to the bottoms of your feet and feel the triangles in the bottom of the feet. If you're not familiar with the triangles, just picturing the bottom of one foot, feel the weight in the heel. Draw a line from the heel to the big toe. Draw the big toe mound, the bottom of the foot. From the big toe mound to the piggy toe mound. And from the piggy toe mound back to the heel. That's one triangle. Now feel that in both feet, noticing if you have your weight in any of the corners or positions of the triangle more than the other. And allow yourself to play with these triangles. Send your weight back more into the heels and notice how the toes lift off the floor a little bit. And then lean forward so the weight is in your big toe mound and your piggy toe mound. And maybe adjust your weight accordingly so the weight is evenly distributed in both triangles. From there, draw your navel into your spine and lift and lengthen through the crown of your head, reaching up to the ceiling. Let the arms dangle down and be heavy at the shoulders. And activate the legs. Now, if you've been with me for the last year, you know there's a lot of ways I like to cue active legs. And if you know how to find it, go ahead. Otherwise, you can pretend like you have a beach ball in between your upper thighs and you're squeezing the beach ball together. You might feel the feet actively wanting to move toward one another on the mat, but they're staying still. Pause and lengthen through the spine. Breathe. And notice how much harder you're working just standing by taking that activation. Release that activation and pretend like you have a giant rubber band above the knees. Pull the rubber band apart, but also pretend like you're sliding your feet or tearing away the ground below you as well. Feet don't move. Lift and lengthen through the spine. Draw navel towards your spine and feel how you have to work in that position. Keep breathing. Release there. Now, what I like to do is get that push and that pull at the same time, which we get out of rotating. So right leg rotates down on the ground. Feel it all the way up in the hip, not just at the knee. Left foot rotates down into the ground. Lift and lengthen through the spine. If that's difficult for you to access, try one of the previous ones, just a squish or a tear apart. Inhale the arms up, reach up. Exhale, arms down to the sides. Anyone with shoulder injuries that can't reach overhead, you're just going to inhale your arms out in front to a level that suits you and exhale your arms down. Otherwise, I'm going to cue hands overhead. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, arms down to the side. Connecting your breath with your movement. We might take some bigger movements down. Inhale, arms up. Turn palms forward. Swish arms down, look down. Inhale, arms up. Fingertips up to the ceiling. Rotate palms forward, swish your arms down, take your trunk towards the floor. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale up. Exhale. Inhale up. Last time. Exhale through the mouth. And inhale your arms up. Exhale, arms down to the sides. We'll begin working with our neck today. Bring arms up overhead to a position that makes sense to you. Be sure that you're not jutting your chin forward, bringing your ears in front of your shoulders to get your arms up. So take a bend in the elbow as much as you need to. Lift and lengthen like a brace is pulling your neck long, and look up to the ceiling, opening up the front of the throat. And take your chin down to your chest, nice and slow. Feel the activation, feel the stretch all the way down. And look up again, open up the front of the throat. Eye gaze looks up and lifts up. On your exhale, draw your chin down to your chest. One more time, as you look up, can you activate through the legs as well? Make this a whole body movement, even though we're isolating the movement just to the cervical spine. And draw the chin down to the chest. Bring the eye gaze back to center. Let the arms fall. Let the shoulders rest for a second. And then cross arms right across the chest. We're working on rotation. Take your eye gaze over to one shoulder. And then move back over to the other shoulder, finding your end range of motion here. As we move through this exercise, feel the feet, feel the triangles. Notice when we start to think about another area of the body, how we go into our old patterns. Are you rolling to the outsides or inside edges of your feet? Can you maintain that equal pressure in the triangles of the feet and stay active in the legs as you move through this neck exercise? Take your hands, drive your knuckles down to the ground. Right ear comes down to right shoulder. Inhale. And exhale, chin down, bend your knees. Left ear goes over to left shoulder. Shoulders pull away from the ears. Keep breathing, my friends. Chin down and switch. Right ear to right shoulder. Pull up a little bit with left earlobe. Inhale. Exhale, chin down and switch. Inhale. Chin down and switch. Now pause with me over here, right ear to right shoulder. Now we're going to add all these pieces together. From here, let's find that rotational move. So the right ear stays down. I'm just going to rotate my eye gaze up to the ceiling. Now you'll notice it's more of the back of the head that's closer to the right shoulder. Now find your chin, travel your chin over to the other shoulder, almost like you're going to touch your other shoulder with the chin. Now rotate down so your left ear goes towards the shoulder And then keep rotating. So your eye gaze looks up at the ceiling, and now it's the back of your head at the shoulder. Now we're going to travel again. Travel the chin over to the opposite shoulder. When you arrive, sweep the right ear down. You're looking forward and then keep sweeping. So the back of your head is closer to the shoulder. Chin is up towards the ceiling, eye gaze at the ceiling now, and travel over to the other side. Chin to the shoulder, sweep the ear down. As the ear rotates down, the chin rotates up, and travel one more time on each side. This is our figure 8 movement, combining all 3 elements, the most complex of the movements. And keep breathing with all that work, and then come back to center. Nice work. Good. We'll visit figure 8 again next week too. That's the most challenging one. Bring the shoulders up into the ears, let them go down to the sides, just shrugging the shoulders a little bit, knowing that our shoulder blades are moving up on the back sides. Bring your fingertips back behind your head, but lightly rest your fingertips there. I don't want you to clasp your hands and push your head forward like the old sit-up days. Light touch with the fingers. Ears are still back over the shoulders. Now get a strong stance. Open up the elbows without arching the back. You can inhale here and then close the elbows as much as that feels possible to you. Again, as the elbows open, we're not arching the back to get that opening. We're just moving in that shoulder complex, and then close the elbows. So as we do this exercise, you could use those previous cues of grounding down through the feet and being active through the legs to still the spine as we do this work. When the elbows come together, you might feel the shoulder blades separate a little bit. And then as elbows come back, feel how the shoulder blades move toward one another. Pause here with me with these wings. Now, on your left side, feel space between the left rib and the left pelvis. Lift the left elbow up as the right elbow tilts towards the floor. We're just moving laterally through the spine, and come right back up to center. Let's do that a few more times. Lift and lengthen left elbow. Right elbow comes down. Your trunk or your chest and your eye gaze, that's all facing forward, as if you're in this narrow tunnel, narrow front to back. You're just moving laterally in this tunnel. We're moving our spine in this lateral flexion move. Now pause with me over to the side and think about the trunk or the chest. Rotate the chest down towards the floor. Right elbow comes back behind you. Rotate the chest back to the screen, and then keep rotating it up towards the ceiling. So similar movements that we did with our neck. Rotate the trunk back down to the floor. So we're just getting a little bit of rotation in the spine as we move from this lateral position. You're going to end up in your lateral position and come back up to center with me. Now your shoulders, your delts might be a little bit sore from that. So we'll unpack that a little bit. Take elbow circles. Make a fist, take your thumbs out, backs of the hands are up to the ceiling, bring the thumbs to your ears, and then rotate your wrists open to the ceiling. Bring your hands back together, turn the wrists back down to the floor, thumbs to ears, rotate open, and come back together. Now speed this up a little bit and put your mind in your elbow. So feel that twisting and that rotation happening in your elbow, both elbows. So you're hydrating that joint, getting all kinds of good lubrication and movement in the elbow joint. Let's take it the other direction now. I got to think where we are. We were here. Okay, we'll start with our hands out wide, wrists are up. Bring our fist towards our ears and then punch forward. So the back of your hands are up. Rotate out and up, fist back to ears and punch forward. So take those circles the other direction and then speed up that movement. Sometimes it's nice to just give you the challenge of taking your movement in the opposite direction, right? I don't talk you through it. I let you use your brain. So if you're struggling right now, maybe go back to what felt normal and then reverse engineer it and see if you can take it the other direction. All right, good job. flick out the wrists, loosen everything up, and bring your fingertips back behind the back of your head. Let's bring the elbows forward and then open up, long spine though. We're going to take our lateral bends to the opposite side now. So when we work with the spine, we always want to think about maintaining length and distance in the spine. So as the left elbow tucks down, right elbow reaches high. And we really feel the space in the trunk that we're creating, bringing, gravity can kind of crunch us all in. So we want to fight gravity and create this nice space in the torso, space we can bring our breath into. Pause with me over to one side. We'll begin our rotation. So think about the whole rib cage moving like a globe spinning on its axis. And then keep the rib cage moving toward the camera and up toward the ceiling. Only move as far in this rotation as it feels safe and comfortable for you. And you might notice that activating the legs will help you stabilize the pelvis. Drawing navel to spine will help protect you in the low back as you find these gentle rotations. And come back to your side, start position. Bring yourself back up to center. Let the arms hang heavy. Your arms might feel some work. I'm going to have you just slightly bend the knees and slightly pitch at the hips. Let the arms hang down. Imagine that you have like 5-pound weights in your arms. So you can really feel the weight in the hands, and kind of a tugging sensation at the shoulder. Keep your chest pulling forward. Keep your back more flat and in alignment. Just letting these gentle arm circles tug at the connective tissue at the shoulder. And then can you take your circles in the other direction? Now, if that's too much on your back and you need to square up a little bit more, that's fine. Just let these gentle circles tug and pull. So it's the weight of the wrist pulling on you. And then pause, drive through the heels, come back up to standing, and start to twist. And again, just letting go. So the movement is coming from the core, and the arms are just following. The arms aren't leading. And come back into center. Good work. Let's work on our wrists in a different way. We've been on the ground working on the wrists, or we've worked in the air. We're going to kind of combine those two ideas. So take your right arm and turn it into external rotation. So the wrist is forward. And see if you can bring the shoulder down into that pack position. You don't want to be here, shoulder into chin or ear. Bring it out of the ear. Take your opposite arm. You can bend your elbow at first and begin to take all 4 fingers and bring the fingers back towards your body. Okay. From here, as long as that shoulder stays down and packed, you can begin to explore maybe taking the crease of the elbow and straightening it out just a little bit more. So explore this stretch either from the crease of the elbow, or you might take your mind more into the wrist and explore the stretch more in your wrist. Keeping mindful about the shoulder, not letting it sneak up. And breathe. Deep breath into that. And you might bend the elbow and come back in and revisit this lengthening. We're getting nice length, nice extension at the elbow. And release and let it go. Flick out the wrist. Now just grab your pinky and ring finger and do that again. Notice how the sensation changes a little bit, much like when we're on the mat. We get more into the fingers and into these lower forearm muscles. Continue to breathe. If you have shortness of breath, it might be too intense for you. So pick an intensity that works with your breathing. And then I switched. I went to index finger and middle finger, and try that again there. And then put your mind back into your feet. What are your patterns in your feet? What are your patterns in your lower body? Are you starting to round forward? Are your knees bending deep? So can you find that active stance in your lower body as you work on the wrist? Good. Release it. When you're ready, shake it out, and we'll take this stretch on the opposite side. So first, externally rotate, shoulder comes down into pack, bend elbow, grab fingers, and then start to find your way into this stretch. So if this is really intense for you, you might keep a bend in the elbow and just work the wrist area more. If you're finding that this is accessible for you, you can straighten out the elbow more. Just be mindful where the shoulder travels when you do that. So many things to think about, right? Are you breathing? And what has happened in your stance? Mine changed. As I talk to you and give more instructions, my stance starts to move and change. And then release. Just grab your pinky finger and ring finger. You might get a different sensation in the hand or the lower forearm or even the fingers. And release. First finger, middle ring finger. If I'm rushing you on this side or you feel rushed, feel free to just take your time. I'm trying to keep class moving along, but if you need more time in a particular pose, you should just certainly take it and breathe through it. You're not going to get too far behind. And then when you're ready, you can release. Let's just bring our fingers in and flick. And you're going to start low and flick high. Good. All right. I'm going to do a new one today. I think this is pretty new. Take your hands and interlace them here, and then turn your palm and press away. See if you can bring your shoulders down and press away, and then just start to lift the hands as much as that's possible in your shoulders. Again, with the stance, just nice, strong posture, long spine. You can come out of it, find it again and go in front, or find it again and go up overhead. Again, be mindful of the shoulders. If you're shrugging them up to the ears, can you bring the shoulders down while the palm is rotated to the ceiling? You could even find some gentle little tick-tocks side to side in this shape. And release the hands and we'll exit out. I don't know about you, but my arms are awake. They're tingling. They're talking to me. So let's go a little bit lower in the body for a minute. Take your stance and get in a wider stance and slightly turn your toes inward. Now, when we move into these squatting or hinging patterns, that cue that I give often is to take the flesh or the globe of your glute muscle and pull it back behind your heels. We'll do the same thing here today so that your spine is long, but draw your chin down to your chest so the back of your neck is in line with your spine. You can rest your hands right on your thighs, or if you have a chair or coffee table and you want to use that, that's perfectly okay to bring into your practice here. From this position, just notice some stretch that you might be feeling in the low back, or lengthening you feel in the low back, or maybe some length in the hamstrings. And then we're going to press back up. So push the weight. You might be a little in your toes. Push the weight to your heels, drive heels down, and send your hips forward. Now, if your feet are turned super far in, get them a little bit more straight for this one. Again, take your hips back into your hinge. You can rest your hands on your thighs or on your chair. This is going to be a newer move. I'm going to show it from the front. I'm going to have you bring that flesh, it's already back, pull it back behind the right heel so that the right knee is bending a little bit and the left leg is long. So you might feel some stretch in the inner thigh. Take a breath there. Now find your heel in the leg of the bent knee, drive through the heel and come up. Stand tall. Hinge your hips back. Hands come down on the thighs. Pull the flesh of the left glute back behind the left heel as the left knee bends. You might be feeling a stretch in the long leg. Notice here where your weight is in your bent knee side. So if you're more in your toes or the ball of the foot, you're going to be working your quad and your knee more. We don't want that. I want you to put the work in the backside. So put it in your heel and your glute and your hamstring muscle. So find your heel on this side, drive yourself back up to standing, fully extend through the hips, squeeze the glutes a little bit, hinge at the hips, hands on thighs, and come over to your right side. From the right side, we're just going to shift over to the left side. Move the hand, shift over to the right side. And you can start to get a little bit more quick in this movement, a little bit more fluid. And then depending on your mobility, you might have to come up and go down, or you can remain low as you shift. Notice though, my shoulders are not as low as my hips. Come back into center, press yourself back up to standing, send the front of the hips forward, lift and reach and lengthen through the spine. Exhale, arms down to sides, toe heel your your feet in, and wiggle a little bit. Move into our spinal circles. Let's take our hands in this position. Now the spinal circle is a little bit like that lateral flexion. So we're going to go over to our side, but pull the hips back behind the heels, bend knees, bend hips, come over to the other side, and back up, stand tall. Over to the side, pull hips back behind, eye gaze goes down, around and back and up. And then can you take these instructions to find some fluidity in these spinal circles? Remember, if you want to reach overhead, you can. It's just going to be a little bit more tax on your low back. Let's take our circles in the other direction. So hand gaze or hand grab here. If you're grabbing elbows, keep your your ears over your shoulders. And then can you connect some breath? So a common mistake is to be real peg-legged here. So go ahead and pull your hips back behind your heels, create some flexion at the hips. That means this is extension. So flexion is that you're creating that angle. Bend your knees a little bit. And we'll come back up to standing. Now, if you feel dizzy at all, just take your hands and press down on the top of your head. Lift and lengthen through the spine. And hands come down to the hips. We'll move right into hip circles. So get active in the legs. Find your triangles, navel into spine. Come back into your, actually, my apologies. Let's come into our chair, hands on hips, and then we're going to work on just our lumbar spine, just our back. Pretend like you have a tail, send the tail down to the floor. You're going to flatten out around the lower back. Now you're going to lift your tail up to the back of the room. So just work on moving the pelvis. I like to call these moves sassy tail and then cashew tail. A little bit of sassy and a little bit of cashew. Now find what's in between your sassy and your cashew. Can you find the middle ground? From middle ground, bring your hips back over to the left side. Remember, you're aiming for the corner of the room. If you have a wall square here and a wall here, it's the corner where those two walls meet in the back. And stand up nice and tall. Think about that neutral spine halfway between sassy and cashew. And bring your hips over to the right side. Stand up nice and tall. Inhale. Exhale. You can find a little movement, particularly if you're getting some stretch or some positive or nice sensation on the outside of the hip. And stand tall. Inhale, exhale, move over to the right side. Find a little flossing or movement on this side. Nice work. And then hips forward. You might want to use a wall or a chair for balance here. I keep my weight on the left leg. Peel the right heel up. We've done this in our foot fold in previous classes. Peel the heel up and then just start to find movement at the hip. So Think about the knee being a windshield wiper moving toward the midline and away. Just getting a little bit more movement in the hip. Good. And then pause. What's happening on the leg you're standing on? Are you locking it out? All right. So soft bend in the leg you're standing on. Drive down, stand tall. We don't want to be crunched on this side. Stand tall. Maybe turn on that glute. Now the knee that we bent, take it behind you and put the tops of the toes down on the ground. You might bend a little bit here to find that, and then stand tall. The leg that's behind you, we're stretching out the front of the shin, the top of the shin, the top of the ankle. So it's up to you how much you straighten that leg out, how tall you stand. And then you can play with it. Play with getting more of a stretch at the ankle, or play with getting more of a stretch at the hip. Keep breathing. And I'm working in this standing leg. I got a little bend in the knee, and I'm working to create that tension that I'm trying to get in the stretch. I'm going to shift my weight back into the standing leg and bring my foot forward. So we'll wiggle out of that. And if you're using a wall or a chair, let's set it up on the other side. So now, for me, it's my right leg. I'm going to stand on that leg. So let's set that leg up first. Do we get our balance by locking out? Slight micro bend. That's what we want. And remember how we found that corkscrew? Can you find a corkscrew in one leg? Bring the shoulders up over the hips, peel up the heel of the opposite leg, and then windshield wiper through the knee. It's kind of hard not to lock out the knee when you're doing this. So the knee that's moving, we're just getting a little movement in the hip associated with that side or on that side. And then come back to center. Bend that knee just a little bit more so you can reach your opposite foot back behind you. It doesn't have to be far. It doesn't have to be off the mat, wherever you want. And then press the top of the foot behind you into the ground as you start to stand up tall. There's so many places where you can play with this. You can play with this in your spine. How does lifting and lengthening through the spine affect this stretch? How does bending the knees or straightening out the standing leg more? Now, if you want more of a stretch, you might bend the knee, reach a little bit further behind you, and that'll help you get more into the hip. So just playing with this, you can rotate just a little bit, rotate on the top of the foot. I don't know about you guys, but this is delicious. I love this stretch. So I hope you're finding it delicious too. How are these big, giant reading glasses? I feel like I can't even tell you what I'm looking at right now. Okay, let's bend our standing leg knee and come back to standing, wiggle it out. We're gonna do our standing core today. This is where you bring a chair or you can use your coffee table or a box or something. So if you feel like you have the balance to lift your leg, go ahead and do. I'm gonna plant my left leg and lift my right leg up onto an elevated surface. Now, my weight is in my standing leg. That's where my balance is happening. So use our tools to find balance here. We're not locking out the leg. Maybe you can find that corkscrew. You can hug the flesh of the glute muscle to the bone, draw the navel in. Pelvis is pretty square here. Ankle is under the knee. Toes are tracking forward. Now, I'm going to have you cross your hands over your trunk, and I want you to move your opposite rib cage toward the knee that's forward, and then move the rib cage back. So you're using these core rotational muscles or your obliques just to rotate. So put your mind where your rib cage is. So my right knee is lifted. So I'm rotating my right rib back toward my hip as the left rib rotates towards the front inner thigh. The reason your hands are here, you can go here, but when we do that, we tend to lead with the shoulders or the hands or even the eyes. I'm looking for about 7 or 8 rotations here, just waking up the oblique rotational muscles. And pause, carefully come out of this, and we'll find it on the other side. So take your time finding it on the other side. Remember, wide base of support gives you more balance. So maybe spread the toes as you go into your standing leg. Find your balance, lift your opposite leg, organize your structure. So the toes are forward, soft bend in the knee. And let's see, we'll do our rotations this direction. So now left leg is forward. So right rib cage is rotating toward the inside of the left leg. You can stay right here and find these rotations, or you can stick your arms out, but make sure it's not your shoulders or your hands that's driving the movement. Really imagine your rib cage, your whole rib cage is like a globe, and you're just spinning. Like North America is spinning around to where Europe is. Actually, I probably shouldn't use that kind of reference since I don't know if the direction I'm turning is east or west. Whatever the case, about 7 or so rotations. And then when you finish, carefully come out of this shape. We're going to do a new core exercise today, and this is going to be a challenging one, but I'm excited to share it with you. Take your feet wider than hips distance, maybe the distance we did for our hip hinges. But in the right leg, pivoting on the heel, turn the toes to the wall, directly to the wall, to your side, and then bend your knee. So if you look down, the bent knee is right on top of the ankle. And remember, we're not peeling into the inside of the foot. We're finding the triangle of the foot, and the knee is tracking over the second and third toe. Take your trunk and rotate it towards the computer screen, and then drop your right arm down on your thigh. From here, push long through your left leg and begin to reach your left arm up to the ceiling. You're going to notice the further your left hand travels over your head, the more you have to work in the core. So start hugging your glute muscles to the bone, drawing your navel in. Pause with your hand wherever you want to. If you really want to challenge, pause with your hands just slightly beyond your head. Now think about your bottom hand. Lift it up. 5, put it down. 4, put it down. 3, big core exercise. 2, and 1. Drive through the heel of the bent leg and press yourself back up to standing. Pivot your toes back to the front of the room. We'll find this on the other side. Maybe take some juicy hip circles before we go to the other side. The way you get there. So you lift the toes and pivot on the heel. Make sure the stance is something that works in your body. So there's always time and room to make adjustments so it feels good in your body. Then bend the knee. So the knee is right over the ankle. So what we don't want is a knee way over the toes with the ankle lifted. That's not safe. It's not safe for our purposes today. Bring the knee right over the ankle and make sure the ankle and make sure the heel is down. Now pick up the ribs and rotate them towards the front of the room. And bring the same arm as the knee down. Keep opening up, rotating the ribs. Now put your mind into the hip or big glute muscles. Hug them to the bone, hug them together. Maybe squish the feet toward one another and raise that opposite arm. Fingers might reach overhead. You might stay there or reach slightly beyond. Maybe this is enough for you. Or you take that bottom arm and you lift it up for 5 and 4 and 3 and 2 and 1. Take your top arm, put it down, press through the heel, come back up, and pivot the toes back forward. Then toe, heel, your feet back in. That's my alarm. Can you hear it? Because I can't see anything. We're going to make our way down to the floor for shin box. Just a little bit of shin box. That's how we're going to end our class today. So if you're sitting in a chair, you're going to do your shin box from the chair. You're just going to try, oops, wow, that was loud. Primarily in the chair, you're just going to work on feathering. Feet wider than the chair, dropping one leg in at a time. You cannot think about your feet triangles now, right? You can roll to the inside edge of your foot as you do that. If you're on the ground, from the ground, take the feet wider. Hands are back behind you. You're leaning back. And you're just going to feather the leg to the midline. Now, if you've done it on the right side a whole bunch because you knew where we were, go ahead and switch to the left side. If you've just arrived in this position, go ahead and hang out on the first side. So things that we're looking for in shin box, you don't want to be slouched or have your shoulders into your ears. So drive shoulders away from ears as chest pulls forward and long, and you're leaning or hinging back. So we're going to spend about 10 more seconds here. So do whatever you need to do, switch to whatever leg you need to feel like you're evened out in your shin boxes. Then we're going to go to a full shin box. So for people in the chair, it's going to be a little bit more challenging to follow along because this exercise is really made for the floor. But for my folks that are on the floor, and you can follow along in the chair, but let's go full shin box. So both knees are going to drop over to one direction, and then we're going to sit tall. Now from here, you can play around with the trunk. So if you're in a chair, you still have your flesh on the chair. You're just trying to take both knees to one direction, but hold on to the chair. Just work through your trunk a little bit. And then to shin box in the other direction, go ahead and lean back, lift the knees up. Notice my feet aren't moving. I'm just rotating the knees in the other direction. And I'm going to sit up and find some movement on this side. So you can be intuitive here. You can play here. You could take this hip that's lifted up off the ground and lift and lower it. It's a little bit harder to do this in the chair. In the chair, it's easier to keep your sits bones down and just work on your spine. So you can rotate the spine, lengthen through the spine. All right, we're going to shin box back in the other direction. People in the chair, lean back and hold on. People on the ground, you have an option to lean back, or people on the ground, take your hands in front. See if you can bring your knees up. You're going to scoot forward a little bit when you do, and shin box. So that's kind of a challenging way to move in shin box. So your choice, hands back or hands forward. You might scoot your feet just a little bit and play around with that shin box. All right, let's all meet over on this side. Lift and lengthen spine and align the trunk with the thigh that's in front. And then remember, we don't want to round down here. We want to pull our chest long, bring the belly button to the thigh, and then wave down and wave up. Lift and lengthen through the spine. Pull the belly button down, then the ribs, then the head sweeps down and come up. Final time. Find your version of what feels good to you. You could bring pillows under here or books. If you're able to get lower, you could stack your wrists. However you can get some softening and some release there. For my friends in the chairs, you're just working on hinging at the hips and coming over this top thigh. And make your way back up to a seat. Perform your shin box however you want. If you're in a chair, rotate the trunk over, lift and lengthen in the spine. You're going to peel down and up. So you can still perform these spinal waves. So it's the belly button that goes first, then the ribs, then the head. And then on your third one, you can just allow some stretch to happen. If you're down on the ground, finding the head position that works best for you. And you know that we're getting toward the end of class here. And then slowly make your way back up. If you're on the floor, you can Just take your legs out in front of you or in a way that suits you best. If you're in a chair, go ahead and let your back rest into the chair. If you're on the floor, you can lean against a couch or a wall. And take a breath in. Just let go everything that happened in class today. And arrive refreshed and ready for the rest of your day.